I heard that you were looking for more book recommendations. That's funny because I thought you said that you were going to be reading your physical TBI this year. No? Okay. I'll still tell you about them. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kai. I make bookish lifestyle and vlog content. And these are the books that have altered my brain chemistry. We'll just dive right into it with the first one being the most recent read in this pile. We have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. As you can tell from this cover, this is a very cozy high fantasy romance. There's unicorns, there's mermaids, there's horses, there's talking plants, there's flying cats. There is tons of found family, the cutest romance. Our protagonist, Kiela, escapes from a revolution going on in the city, and she flees to her childhood home, to where she uses illegal magic and spell books to make hers and her neighbors' lives just a little bit easier. In my opinion, the writing style is phenomenal. The details were so immersive. While I was reading this, I literally was able to imagine every piece of scenery that was mentioned in the book. Not to mention the gorgeous sprayed edges as well. Literally, the feeling of this book is sitting out on your porch drinking your coffee while sitting in the sun. It is so heartwarming, and the character arc of the protagonist is an interesting one. It goes from introvert to found family. She goes from shut-in to coven. I mean, I can't lie to you, the book cover is what drew me in initially, and she also has a sequel coming out sometime this year. This was definitely the kind of read that I needed to get out of my massive book slump. Very lighthearted, very easy read. 5 stars. Next one we have is a duology. We have House of Salt and Sorrow and House of Roots and Ruin. Little backstory on how I came about this duology. If you frequently window shop on barnesandnoble.com, you would know that every now and then they create a new list of judge a book by its edges. About a year ago, I was window shopping and came across said list, and it also happened to be 50% off hardcovers, to which I saw this. It is a Barnes & Noble exclusive hardcover, gorgeous cover with more gorgeous sprayed edges. I actually didn't have this edition in any of my local Barnes & Nobles, so I did have my husband pick it up from a Barnes & Noble 2.5 hours away, along with my Cruel Prince special edition. But once I got my hands on it, I quickly realized that this is book 2. Not wanting to have had him waste a trip, that was a lot of words. I went to my local Barnes & Noble and picked up book 1, House of Salt and Sorrow. I am probably the most flabbergasted by this duology because I went into it blind and was not expecting to love it this much. If you're a fan of the Barbie movies, I'm gonna need you to come closer for a second. This book, think gothic horror 12 Dancing Princesses. Yes, ma'am. So House of Salt and Sorrow by Erin Craig follows one of 12 sisters. Her name is Annalee. She lives a very sheltered life. There were once 12 sisters, but at the start of this book, we learn that 4 have died very tragic deaths. Annalee is also disturbed by visions and ghosts, and over time, she starts to get suspicious that her sisters' deaths were not accidents. From what I can remember, I'm pretty sure one fell, one got sick, one drowned, and then something else. Annalee notices that her sisters start attending midnight balls and dancing till the sun comes up. If you have seen the 12 Dancing Princesses, it follows a very similar storyline, just without the death. The sisters dance till dawn, they come back to their rooms, and their father tries to investigate why his daughters are so exhausted and why their shoes are being worn through so fast. As the story progresses, Annalee does enlist the help of a handsome stranger she meets, and the imagery and plot twist that comes at the end of this book, it's a pretty short read. By short, I mean like 400 pages, but 2 days, this is finished. One of my favorite things that this book has too, they have little artworks in the corners of the beginning of each chapter. Apparently Erin Craig is cooking up a third book following another sister that is supposed to come out in 2026, and it could not be 2026 any sooner. Now, House of Roots in Ruin. We are following, from what I can remember, the youngest sister. Her name is Verity. What Verity has come to realize, along with the rest of her family, is that Annalie was not the only one who was haunted by ghosts and visions. Verity is too. She is often caught talking to people who are not there, people who she does not realize have died. So her family does keep her inside their manor as long as possible. Soon after we are introduced to Verity and her story, she receives word that a duchess would like to commission Verity to paint a portrait of her son. Again, the imagery and the descriptions that Erin Craig presents us with takes us from the gloomy oceanside manor, literally being able to smell the salt outside, to the house of a botanist. Somehow her writing transforms the entire story to being lush and green and fresh, but still with tons of twists and turns that you are not expecting. This one is a bit thicker. We're just about 530 pages on this one, but oh my god, is it worth it. The way that the villain emerges in this story from the person that you would least expect it from. Things seemingly popping out of nowhere while Verity is still trying to figure out her life, being outside of her childhood home for the very first time, while also trying to navigate a budding romance. There is a plot twist slash cliffhanger that is written into the story at the very end that is and probably never will be solved. This book is my all-time Roman Empire. Cover's gorgeous, edges are gorgeous, inside is gorgeous. At first sight, this does not look like it's a gothic romance, but if I had to rank all of these books, this would be number 1. Next, we have A Realm of Dark Fury by R.D. Baker. Again, the one thing that drew me into this book when I saw it on the table was the cover. This is fantasy romance, very spicy, deadly games and trials, enemies to lovers, multi-POV. The romance is between a fae princess who was stolen from her kingdom and a prince of the night demons. Now, lots of people didn't like the writing because they feel that the writer used the F word way too much. It honestly didn't bother me. I don't feel like it took away from the writing or the story at all. I thought this is a pretty unique story in and of itself, especially when the enemies to lovers is forced proximity, but they're also forbidden from being together. This is apparently the first book in the series, and I am still waiting for the next book to come out. One thing that is really unique about this book is it has the dark pages just at the beginnings of the chapters. This was a 4-star for me. Honestly, might even reread it this year because my knowledge on this book is getting a little rusty. Next up, we have Gothicana. This is a professor-student romance, but not in like an Arya and Mr. Fitz kind of way. Corvina is an outcast. She decides to go to Varenmore after losing her mother and receiving an admission letter from the university. Vad and Corvina work together to try and solve a century-old mystery where students just continuously go missing. The plot twist in this, a lot of people said that they could see it coming, but I just read and immerse myself, and honestly, you could spell it out for me and I still wouldn't get it. Foreshadowing is not my forte. Ask me what I think will happen in the next chapter. I have no idea. This book also has the dark pages marking each chapter along with the sprayed edges and inside artwork. This is the only book that I have read by Runix, but safe to say that I am obsessed and I would like more. Now, there is a prequel that is supposed to come out at some point, but with no release date announced. I am crossing my fingers that it comes out this year so that I can add yet another book to my TBR. It is described very closely to Beauty and the Beast and Dracula, which I think are two very interesting stories to kind of describe it with. I think the cover does a very good job with helping you imagine exactly what this setting feels like when you're reading it. Runix is a very immersive author from what I've read. read so far. I'm obsessed. Please give me 15. The next books I have for you is another duology. We have the Shepherd King duology, One Dark Window, and Two Twisted Crowns. I don't remember exactly what made me pick up this book, but my god, I am glad I did. This book has very spooky vibes without being too gothic. It definitely does follow more gothic themes, but it is more of a gothic fantasy versus a gothic romance. Very, very unique magic system that follows cards. They are called Providence cards. The way that I imagine them are like tarot cards where each face has a certain amount. We go from 1 to 12, I believe, with the first card being the rarest because there's only one. Elspeth is our protagonist, and she is described as a girl with a nightmare in her head. She literally has an ancient spirit trapped in her mind who not only protects her but guides her through her journey. She also works together with several other characters to try and cure the land of its dark magic. In book 2, we follow the crew's journey, not only with curing the land of the magic, but also curing Elspeth of the nightmare. There's not much that I can say about this series without giving away a lot of the plot. This has a lot of hype around it, and rightfully so, because again, this would be number 2 in my ranks for Roman Empire level obsession. I think this series is perfect as a duology. It does not need more books. I would reread this series a million times over and never get tired of it. And the last book that has altered my brain chemistry by nobody's surprise is Fourth Wing. You know, I've seen a lot of discourse online about people who are just now getting into the Fourth Wing series, saying that the fact that Violet being small and frail really turned them off from the story. Honestly, if you are bothered by Violet being small and frail, you did not read enough Wattpad growing up. Because what do you mean this bothers you? All of the Wattpad girlies know that every single fan fiction was based on a bookworm turned badass who was tiny and frail with light brown hair thrown in a messy bun. I think there needs to be an end to people yucking each other's yum when it comes to books that are enjoyed, because it's fine if you don't like a book that's massively popular, but don't start bagging on other people for enjoying a book that most of the community enjoys. By this point, we all know that I love academia themes. Mix that with my Lord of the Rings obsession, hence the dragons. It's not as spicy as other books that I've listed here, but this is definitely the book with the most world building that I have come across. And this is coming from somebody who has not read a single Sarah J. Maas book. This series is addicting. I have read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame twice, Onyx Storm once. I think my next reread will probably be with the audiobook. Either way, if you haven't heard about this, you're living under a rock. But at the end of the day, these are the books that I like. If you don't like them, that's okay. I think I'll like them enough for the both of us. I am definitely not like a literary scholar by any means. I just kind of read things and decide that I want to obsess over them or not obsess over them. If you are also obsessed with any of these books, please leave a comment down below letting me know. Or if you have any books that are similar to these that I did not mention, please leave your recommendations, because I am always looking to expand my massively long TBR. If you have made it this far, thank you so much. I very much appreciate you being here. Please comment this emoji so that way I know who's made it to the end. That is all I have to talk about, and I will see you in the next one.